Thank you very much to all our witnesses. I'll now recognize the ranking member for closing remarks.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for your testimony and your expertise, all of the witnesses. I agree with Representative Hayes, who was a National Teacher of the Year, that you've made a great case for funding Title I, Title II, Institute of Education Sciences. You know, public education in this country has been chronically underfunded for decades, and too many students are suffering because of it. Even though local and state governments are primarily responsible for school funding, the federal government has a very important role to play in closing opportunity gaps. But instead of making these critical investments in public education, the Trump administration is threatening to dismantle the Department of Education, closing the doors of opportunity for scores of our nation's students, and that's a tremendous loss of potential. And I note that those who say, well, we support Title I, IDEA, and these other programs, the Department of Education monitors and enforces those programs and operates them. Without the Department of Education, we don't know what will happen to them. The administration and Republicans are touting voucher schemes as a solution, but as Dr. Wingfield testified, vouchers take a much-needed funding from public schools and give it to wealthy families to subsidize sending their kids to private schools. And plenty of evidence shows that vouchers do not improve academic outcomes. They allow a few students to slip out, but they leave poor and rural students with fewer resources and fewer opportunities. They lack transparency and accountability, and they're misuse of taxpayer dollars. And I'll note that the majority points to declining NAEP scores as a reason for increasing private voucher schemes and predatory school choice initiatives, but they have yet to produce any test scores that prove that students who attend private schools are outperforming public school students. In fact, in Louisiana, voucher students at private schools are performing worse on state tests than their peers in public schools. That's according to the Times-Picayune and the New Orleans Advocate. They reported that in 2023, only 14% of voucher students in grades 3 through 8 met state achievement goals, compared with 23% of low-income students at public schools. I'd like to enter that into the record, that article, Mr. Chairman.
Without objection.
And according to Education Choice and the 2025 rankings, Florida and Arizona rank number 1 and 2 when it comes to using public funds to bolster private school choice schemes. But this approach has consequences. The NAEP scores revealed that both Florida and Arizona fell below the national average in 8th grade math and reading. Additionally, I'd also like to enter into the record a report released yesterday by the Education Policy Analysis Archives at Arizona State University that comprehensively reviewed state voucher laws since 1869. And that report concluded comprehensively that school vouchers have failed students, families, and our nation, draining public school funding and exacerbating inequities without improving our nation's education system. And I'd also like to introduce that into the record.
Without objection.
Thank you. And Dr. Bromley claimed that your state was not affected by cuts to federal funding. A recent article in KPEL Lafayette News revealed that a superintendent was discussing the challenges of the federal funding freeze and said it really caught them off guard. And I'd like to introduce that into the record as well. Thank you. You know, the American public school education system faces challenges, no doubt, but with 90% of our students enrolled, it will always be the foundation on which to build our nation's future. We need these long-term investments and the research to get students on track to success, but also ready for the future. We look at the proliferation, for example, of artificial intelligence in schools and the workforce. That means we need to instill creative, critical thinking. As Representative Burgess mentioned, it's important to educate critical thinkers. Years of research shows that students who have arts education do better in other academic subjects and are more likely to stay in school. So for those of you who want to see academic achievement and improvement, I invite you to join on my bipartisan Arts Education for All bill. And when we think about NAEP scores, those are test scores. Keep in mind there is a mental health crisis in our nation's schools. A North Carolina publication recently revealed that nearly 1 in 5 adolescents in North Carolina suffered from depression, and 1 in 10 of the high school students there reported attempting suicide. Colleagues, this is a serious issue we should be grappling with as well. Also, Dr. Bromley, you said parents want their kids to be safe. Absolutely they do. After the school shooting at St. Helena High School in Greensburg, Louisiana, a high school student said, "My generation is being forced to normalize living and learning in constant fear of gunfire ringing out in our schools." Students who are worried about being gunned down in their classroom are in survival mode. They are not focused on getting good test scores. Students who live in fear of ICE raids, as Representative Lee mentioned, coming into their school and taking their classmates, they will have trouble focusing on learning, reading, and math. And finally, Mr. Chairman, I hope we can work together to fix our crumbling school buildings so that every child, regardless of their background or their income, can learn in a place that reinforces to them that they have a bright future. Thank you. I look forward to continued conversation on these important issues, and I yield back the balance of my time.